This episode is sponsored by Fake Fragrance. More on them later. Today we're talking about how to build the absolutely perfect beginner watch collection, the sort of collection that's going to keep you in watch collecting forever. This is a great episode.
Looking forward to it.
What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
And I am Sam, and so happy to be here, bud.
Sam is Michael's new replacement. So long to Michael. Today, we're talking about the... It would be impossible to replace my best friend.
You can't replace me. I would never have a denim collection like him. It would never work.
It would never work, yeah. I'll be over here. Yeah, guys, this is super exciting. The first episode where Sam is the co-host. Sam and Michael will be alternating. I am a constant, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. But we're bringing new personalities on the channel. We've got a lot of new content coming. I'll be doing some quick solo videos, not to replace the long-form banter, but in supplement to give you guys some extra fun, really cutting industry bites. But we've got a lot of great stuff coming for you. Sam, I'm so glad to have you on the channel.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be talking a ton about what the hell Sam is doing here a little bit later in the episode. But today's episode is really about something that I think that Sam and I both kind of hold near and dear to our heart, right? What does it mean to be a beginner watch collector, right? What does that mean? How do you go about it? Sam was a beginner watch collector not that long ago.
I still think I am, so.
Right. I guess we all are, right? In a large way. I was too, right? Like 9 years ago, I started my collecting journey and I knew nothing. And I think that one of the greatest lessons that I can impart is not on what you should buy or what your taste should be. That's not real advice. Right? I can't tell you what resonates with you. We'll talk something about a little bit later about one of the things that resonates with you that I would never buy myself, right? A la custom bezels on certain things, you know? And yet, I think the most important advice for beginning watch collectors is this, right? Gather as much information as you can, of course, and take your time. And if you do those two things, your collection will be better for it, and you'll make this into a lifelong hobby.
Completely agree.
Right? And isn't that the whole point?
Of course. And you're going to make mistakes along the way.
Of course. But if you learn a lot, the mistakes will be smaller. Of course. And you won't throw up about them.
Exactly.
Right? So the way that we're going to kind of break this down is into three different categories, essentially, right? Three categories that I think, not to make them boxes you need to tick, check. Whatever. Tick? You ticking boxes? You checking boxes?
I'm checking boxes.
Checking boxes.
It's a small,
it's a small check.
An insect.
It's an
tick. Oh.
Yeah. You're like, and frankly, so it's not just about checking boxes. I don't mean it that way, but I do recommend that people look at the beginnings of watch collecting this way. Well, you don't have to, but I do think it's wise.
Agreed.
So the first one is a micro brand. Right? What micro brand do you wear on a regular basis?
So I wear Baltic as my micro brand at the moment, but there are other micro brands that I am looking for, Christopher Ward being one of them, that I'd like to purchase eventually. But I think the micro brand, what I love about it is really two things. Number one, at the price point that you're going to spend for that watch, somewhere probably between $500 to maybe $1,500. I'm sure they go more expensive.
$500 to $2,000.
Okay. Yeah. But I just feel like at that price point, you're getting a watch that really punches above its weight class.
Totally.
And take also the fact that it's unique.
It's totally unique because it's coming from, the mind of someone that, is individual, that they have to be separate from the big conglomerates. They have to, right? Of course. If they produce something predictable, they're not very different. And why? So the luxury of being a big brand is that you don't have to do all that interesting stuff because you got the name.
Of course.
Right? You can kind of work less hard.
Yeah.
Right? Like Tissot's PRX is a great watch, but Tissot didn't really need to hustle for that watch as much. It's interesting. I love the watch, no problem. But the Tissot brand certainly means more to the world than, let's say, the Baltic brand.
Of course.
Or the Charlie Paris brand, a micro brand that I'm a really big fan of. The new Concordia GMT is this, complicated, well-finished watch, that punches significantly above its weight class, right? Like that to me is the exciting thing about micro brands. And those aren't the only two, right? Like you said, Christopher Ward, like you said, Baltic. Charlie Paris happens to be a favorite of mine. I visited them while I was in Paris, walking down I forget the street, but it doesn't matter. But I just love that idea of supporting an independent.
I agree.
Right? There was one time a long time ago that all these brands were independent.
Of course.
And they were little.
Yeah.
You know, every giant was once...
It's like the little engine that could almost.
Right? Like, you know, and you never know where it ends up.
Of course.
But why wouldn't you want kind of a brand or an advocate that they actually have to deliver disproportionate value?
Of course.
Otherwise, you'll never get anywhere.
Exactly.
Because they have no name.
I think also with the micro, when I look at a micro brand, the other thing that I love about it is this is a good, in my mind, an opportunity to get a $1,000 watch for argument's sake. And maybe you get, you know, the luxury watch that you want is a sporty watch. Yep. So maybe you go micro brand sporty, and it's a very good indicator if you're going to like that watch or not, I feel like.
100%. And you're getting, again, back to getting so much for your money, like you can get into mechanical watches.
Exactly.
Early. Like that's big.
100%.
Like getting your first mechanical watch, it doesn't need to be like this super daunting Rolex, Omega, Tudor experience where you're spending $3,000 to $10,000. You know, you can get your introduction to mechanical watchmaking in this micro independent fashion where you're supporting a small business.
Of course.
Number one, and you're getting something unique and getting something that is, you know, is mechanical, something that's powered by your own movement.
Agreed.
And it opens up your whole brain to like, wow, watches are kind of cool. Like mechanical movements are cool.
Yes.
Like maybe this whole hobby, like maybe this door opens up to like this huge world that I'm interested in.
Of course.
Right? Like, and that totally happened with you. Like you did your journey a little bit backwards, right?
Yes.
Like what was your first watch that you purchased with your own money?
Timex Weekender.
Which is the next category.
Yes.
Okay. You got.
I do have one question though before we jump to that category. Do you regret missing out on the micro brands? Because you recommend them, but I don't think you've ever purchased one.
Well, I buy them now all the time as gifts.
Gotcha.
All the time. So many listen, Theo and Harris is a young company, meaning that our fan base has a lot of youth, right? I mean, we have fans that are like 14, 13 years old, which is like super cool, you know? And they're looking to get into watches. They clearly have no budget. So what's the question? Well, what can I get for high school graduation? Right. And, you know, generally speaking, when you ask someone their budget, they say it like with kind of like a tonality. It's like, what's your budget? Like, I'd like to keep it under 1,000.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, what does that really mean? It means 500.
Of course.
Like it means 500 to 700. Like you actually don't want to spend 900.
And we've all been there.
100%. Like you're trying to like, you know, maybe like make your budget seem larger so that you don't seem like you can't afford things.
Of course.
But with micro brands, you actually can buy things,
Agreed.
You know, under $1,000 that are interesting and worth your money. So I've done that many times. I've given gifts to friends and friends' kids and, you know, nephews. I just gave Luca a great micro brand pretty recently.
Love
Luca's
that.
our guy. You know, my little cousin Luca, who was the subject. Michael was the first person to film him for our Accutron film about 3 years ago. Actually, 3 years ago. A month ago, which is amazing. You know, it's so freaking weird to think about that.
Michael grow.
It's so weird to see how Michael has grown. His hairline has receded. We were so youthful then. But that's it's a special thing because you know you're kind of giving someone the bug.
Yep.
Whereas you get into a Rolex and you know Michael and I were talking about in a recent episode is even if you do buy the watch that you can't afford and it's like the great watch, you're going to feel sick about it.
Yes.
And I never want someone's hobby to make them sick.
Of course.
Especially when they're getting into it because they're not even addicted yet. I want to get you addicted. I want to make you like really healthy and happy so that you become a member of the watch community. Not for my own benefit, just for viewership, but just because I love the hobby. I love the craft.
Yep.
So to me, it's like, no. Start with this. Like spend less money than you even like anticipated. Get something amazing and then you're going to be happy. Now, do I regret not getting into micro brands from the beginning? You know, it's a good question. Like micro brands were not big when I got into watches.
Okay.
It's like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a different landscape, you know, and all these brands that we're talking about, they were not producing the quality, both in design and in construction that they are today. Today, the landscape is so competitive.
Yep.
Look at, you know, Christopher Ward's collection. You tried on the 12.
Beautiful.
You were like, this is insane.
Yeah. And at the price point, it's like I don't think you can get much better.
You can't get much better. And you like the purple dial specifically, right?
I mean, the purple dial is great. The baby blue is beautiful. I mean, you can't go wrong. The green, I think it's like almost like a mint green, maybe lighter.
I think I had asked you, what do you think the price is on this watch? What did you say? Like $4,000?
Something like that, yeah.
And I was like, dude, like half.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think it's even less.
It's even less. It's actually less.
I think it's like $1,200.
Yeah, exactly, which is insane.
It's absurd.
It's insane. So that's the beauty of the micro brand, you know, that's the beauty of the micro brand world. right? And I highly recommend that you get into it at any stage of watch collecting, but particularly in the beginning. It's like a really hometown girl. Like it's like you want to lose your virginity to like a nice person because you're not going to hate it forever. And I missed out on that too. You know what I mean? Like, and I think you did too. That's just the truth. Sam and I have been friends our entire lives. We've been friends since we were 5 years old. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Fake Fragrance. Sammy, I know that I can't smell particularly, but I know that sometimes I do smell every once in a while, right? And I know that you've got enough nose for the two of us. The reason that I've never purchased expensive fragrances, and this is well on record for years now.
Yes, I've known
for years, even though I indulge in plenty of other things. It's just because, I don't know, like fragrances are really expensive. All the big designer brands are a fortune. And I don't know, it feels like you're throwing $500 in the wind on some weird company's, I don't know, smell good stuff. I just never understood it. And maybe that's because I can't smell. But the point is that, of course, we all want to smell beautiful and we want to smell, rich and refined, of course. But we don't want to spend all that ton of money.
Agreed.
The solution? Fake fragrance. I know it sounds ridiculous, and coming from a guy that would never wear a fake watch, it sounds a little bit silly and odd, but fake fragrance takes the best fragrances in the world that happen to come from some designer brands and reverse engineers them, replicates them. Make sure that you, walking around, smell like really the greatest scents in the world. And because they're not name brand from the big manufacturers, the big conglomerates, they're able to offer these fragrances at a much more affordable price. So I highly recommend that you all go take a look at Fake Fragrance and use the code Theo Harris for 20% off. For real. The next category I want to talk about is, and I'll let you lead this, is like the beat up watch, the watch you can beat the crap out of and it will never do you wrong. So the watch that will,
what I'm wearing right now, a little Timex Indiglo.
Take a lick and keep on ticking. Talk to me about the value of the beat up watch, the Timex, the Swatch, the G-Shock.
First off, I think that these are a must in any collection. I don't care how expensive the watches are that you have or what you have. These are a must. And I think that for the fact that you could wear this thing every day.
Yep.
I wear this, I DJ on the weekends for those who don't know. And I wear this to almost every wedding or this or another Timex because I am carrying equipment in, I could bang it around. And if I break it, it was $40 to like $100 and 100 something for a Swatch.
And yet when have you broken them?
Never.
Right,
I've had this thing for like 5 years and the battery's still good.
Like in theory it could break.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't care on a monetary level, but like they're freaking durable.
Yeah, of course. They're extremely durable.
And I know that you're a big Timex guy and I love Timex. That watch is insane. If you didn't own that watch, I would buy that watch.
Yeah.
With the same strap and everything.
Oh, I love it.
But I'm not going to steal your steez.
I appreciate that.
I mean? Even though you've stolen my coif. But that's not.
But I'm losing hair, so
I got her. Like a second co-host with the receding hair. Everyone's gonna be like, "Why are you so mean about Michael's hair? Is your hairline even actually receding, or is that just a joke we do for sponsors?" But it's not really, though.
Not so bad.
Yeah, it's really not. Whereas Sam is not from the front, but from the back, clearly balding.
Thanks. Love you too.
Theo and Harris is really a family business. The only thing that gives Sam solace in the fact that I'm a smaller person is that he could absolutely bend me like a pretzel and put me in your breast pocket any day of the week. There is no question about that. I would have no choice but to fight dirt. My dad as a child told me to keep salt in my pocket so I could throw it in people's faces if I had to have a fight.
That explains a lot.
He's like, let's be honest with each other. You're not that big. None more durable than G-Shock.
Of course.
I'm not sure. The truth is, I was going to say, I'm not sure if you know the history of G-Shock, but the reality is I learned it like very recently.
I don't know it.
Yeah,
I just know that every kid in 6th grade had one.
Did you have one?
No.
I had a white one.
Of course you did. Honestly, I love the white one.
We were in big Kanye phases at the time.
Of course.
And I wore the white G-Shock, which is like he was wearing it on stage with like the 808s and Heartbreaks album, and it was like a really big deal. So anyway, G-Shock. I only recently have, bought one for myself as a watch collector. At the time I bought one as like this is cool, like hip hop artists wear it, and like I'm going to wear a G-Shock ironically kind of thing. But I recently bought one, a beautiful G-Shock in like this kind of like yellow green, very tennis one.
Yeah.
And I wear it to play pickleball. I don't play tennis. I wish I played tennis, but you just don't. But the point is, I've enjoyed it so much. And not only, it started with my tennis watch, and now it's become like my Saturday morning errands watch. And on Saturday mornings, as I think you know, I wake up, I go to Jerry's, I get myself a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese, and then I go home and I put sugar in my coffee. It's like my tradition on Saturdays. It's the only day I do either of those things. And I wear my G-Shock.
And let me ask you a question.
Please.
Doesn't that make you feel like a 12-year-old kid again?
Oh my God.
In the best way possible?
100%.
Like when I wear this, like it makes me a little like giddy, excited of 100%. Just like, don't sweat the small stuff. Like when I was a kid, less worries.
Less worries. That was the point of a Swatch film that Michael and I made about a year ago, about a year ago. And it was just about like going back to your roots, and whether you're a collector of Rolex or vintage Patek, spending millions of dollars. Like if you don't understand why Swatch is cool, you miss the point.
Of course.
If you don't see the slight allure, the amount of allure that justifies $150, right, of spend, of feeling young and revisiting that childhood naivety and whimsy before people told you can't wear a color, before people told you that you had to wear very clean cut clothing, when you were like, I don't know, pink is cool, orange is cool, yellow is cool. When you got old, you went to work and the belt you wore mattered, and the shoes you wore mattered, and the suit you wore mattered, and the width of your lapel mattered, and everything mattered. It was like, oh wait, like I guess to feel like a kid again and to kind of wear what I want sometimes is fun. Yeah. It's very similar to the story that when I was at an auction and a friend of mine won a very important lot at an auction, we celebrated. And I tell the story all the time, but it's so relevant. Like we celebrated. Yeah. And we literally stood up and yelled like, yes. And the whole room was like, no one else was cheering about it. And they were spending millions. He spent like $110,000 or something, which is a lot of money, but they were spending millions. They didn't care at all. Yeah. They were like, not even golf clap. It wasn't even a golf clap. It was like,
sounds miserable.
Spend $800,000. What's the big deal? Whereas he spent 110, which is a lot of money, but comparably speaking, at the auction, it wasn't. And we were like screaming because I don't know. I think a lot of it is because we saw eye to eye the fact that we were both kids that came from like a really humble like background. Yep. Our family would like think that we were assholes if we didn't celebrate buying a watch like that.
Of course.
Like you've missed the point. If you don't celebrate that, you've totally missed the point. So that's the point of the G-Shock. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history. And I'm not going to pretend like I remember it completely, but so the whole point. So the G-Shock started in the late 1980s. Mm-hmm. I think they were, inevitably launched officially to the market, ultimately in 1989. Mm-hmm. And the whole point was to create a watch that was basically indestructible, right? A watch that could survive a 30-foot drop, which by the way, I wouldn't drop my watch 10 feet. I wouldn't drop any of my watches 10 feet. So a 30-foot drop, it could survive 10 atmospheres of pressure in the water, okay? And it would have a battery that would last 10 years. That was the whole idea. And, those original models are not as playful. They're futuristic. They're digital, black plastic. Mm-hmm. They're cool. Yeah. But the way that they evolved has been, I think, really special and beautiful. I just gifted a G-Shock to Uncle Tori.
I was there for it.
You were there for it, right? A red G-Shock that I thought was just super, super cool.
Of course.
Because it reminds you of kind of being a kid. So I think that that's very important, right? Having a watch that you could beat the hell out of for your entire watch collecting career that costs you somewhere between $50 and $300, right? That will absolutely never disappoint you. And that is fun.
And I think what you should do with it too, go colorful.
Go colorful. I definitely agree.
Get that watch and maybe you only wear it once a month or every other month on a Saturday, doing chores around the house or going for a walk or whatever that is. And I guarantee no matter how expensive your watch collection is, you put that watch on, it's like, all right, this is fun. I can get behind this.
100%. It reminds me of the Nomos film that we made with Ed Helmstetter.
Exactly.
Choose orange. Yeah. Like, and that was with Nomos, and Nomos watches are $2,000. And I think that you should buy an orange Nomos for sure, or a pink Nomos like I have. And I agree with that. But I can understand why someone's like, yeah, well, $2,000 is a lot of money for a pink watch. I can get that. Yep. I don't feel that way, but I can get that. Right. But $120? $200? $200?
What are we talking about?
Like, have fun with the color.
Yeah.
That's the point of the affordable price point. It gives you a liberty to have some fun, right? Agreed. Even the Submariner, right? I think the Submariner in green is it's probably the greatest Submariner in my view. I love the Hulk. I love the Starbucks, particularly the Hulk though. But I understand why someone doesn't want their $10,000 sports watch to like be green.
Oh, it makes complete sense.
It's like, I want it in black because I can wear it all the time. And I'm like, well, you can wear green all the time. And they're like, yeah, well, no. So the solution there is, okay, buy your black sub, fine.
Yeah.
But like also like, I don't know, get a green Casio. Get a green Swatch. Get a green Timex.
Of course.
Like that's a special, very rejuvenating feeling.
100%.
Straps, as many of you should know, bring a whole world of potential to mix up your watch collection. They breathe new life into watches. They help you pull out different colors. They give them new personality. Straps can be very addictive. I know people with 2 watches and 10 straps because it adds so many facets to a collection in a fairly easy and fun way. So that's why they become such a part of the Theo and Harris culture and identity. I think we sell more exotic straps than almost anybody because I just love them so much and I love sharing them with you. So the third category I want to talk about here is the luxury watch. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you lead this because, you've purchased your first luxury watch much more recently than I purchased mine.
Yes.
They ended up being very similar watches.
Yep.
But you talk to me about the idea of buying a luxury watch and commemorating like an occasion when you felt ready to pull the trigger.
So I think that first and foremost, you need to really think about the first luxury watch that you want to buy. And I know when I was initially thinking about the first luxury watch, I was dead set on GMT. And you know this, I've been dead set on GMT for years.
You were in love with the idea of it.
I still am in love with one. But when you look at that price point of what I'm going to spend, it's it's not entry level at this point.
No.
Whereas when you look at a Datejust or maybe a vintage Omega or a Longines, it's more affordable. It's more, it's affordable, but it's also it's still a luxury watch at the end of the day. So I think you need to really be dead set on that watch, do your research, save up, and don't just pull the trigger right away. I think that you should wait until whatever it may be. You graduate college, you get your first promotion. When I bought my Rolex, I left accounting to go into sales, and I closed my first big deal. And I said, once I close that first big deal, I'm getting the watch
100%.
Because I saved all this money, and at that point in my life, I knew that I made one of the biggest decisions of leaving my first career to realize I needed to switch up and go into sales.
Exactly.
Accounting wasn't for me. I thought that was a very adult thing to do.
Yes.
And I thought a way to commemorate that was let's get that Rolex.
100%. I think that rewarding yourself for achievement is important, right? It's positive reinforcement.
Of course.
And not to mention when all is said and done, when the smoke clears, you're going to look back and you can tell the story about how you left your job in accounting and your kids will care.
Yeah.
Kids will care on a level. But when it's associated with dad's Datejust,
yes, it's
no, this watch represents when my father took a jump.
Yep.
And that, I think, materializes the pride. That materializes the 100%. Story. It's like anything. I mean, when you go through old little knickknacks that grandmothers or grandfathers have left us, how meaningless, how not meaningless, rather, how insignificant they may be on the material.
Oh, but sentimental value's through the roof.
It's through the roof. And would you be telling that story about your grandmother if you didn't just come across the bell in the kitchen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Would you do that?
No.
That's special. My great grandfather's, be it a map or be it a wrench, my grandfather never taught me, how to build things. My grandfather he was just very nasty. Never approved of he called my hands my father's hands. He said, you have your father's hands. And he's right. They are very small and wimpy hands. Thank you, Poppy, for mentioning that. So he didn't really teach me how to build things, but his wrenches are invaluable to me. Are they worth $1 million? No, $1 million is worth $1 million, but they're worth a hell of a lot more than a freaking wrench.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a world in which I would. It's not to say that I would never tell his story, because that's not true at all. God, I tell stories all the time, but when you see a wrench or when you see a macchinette, right?
Yeah.
The espresso pot, you just start telling stories. They're catalysts for stories.
Yes, of course.
So that luxury watch is important. Okay. And like you mentioned, yours is a Rolex Datejust.
Yep.
Right. You mentioned Longines.
Yes.
Right. I recently bought a Master Collection watch.
I love that watch.
With the salmon dial.
Beautiful.
Right?
That is a beautiful piece.
Right. I wore that to your house a couple of weeks ago when we did a fire in the backyard.
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, what the frick is that?
Gorgeous.
Right? I mean, the finishing on the dial was insane.
I love it.
Right?
The color's great. The finish is great.
100%. And that watch is, $2,500, I mean, give or take, Of course, there are Omegas, right? Omega, I'm really a big fan of, obviously, the Seamaster line. I think that they're great. Aquaterras are very versatile. I think that in the Seamaster line, I think that the 300 line, the heritage versions are really, really nice. They're very, James Bond-esque.
Yes.
I really, really like those watches. There are a lot of luxury watches that deliver a lot of value at a relatively affordable price point, meaning, below $5,000, right? We're starting with Longines at 25 and then going up from there. And even if you want to get into Rolex, 34 millimeter models, you bought a 36 millimeter Datejust, but those 34s are nice.
Beautiful.
And that's very old world. What size did your grandfather wear?
Probably, he would wear like a Timex though, but it was smaller.
Well, what about the Enicar that he?
Oh, the Enicar was 30. Is 34? That 34? Yeah.
Like that's what a gentleman wore at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I like smaller watches like that. I mean, 100%. Not a lady size, but like a 34 is like, right?
34.
Yeah.
It's a classy.
It's a beautiful look. No,
it's a beautiful look. And you have to, again, the key here, particularly when it comes to this luxury watch purchase, particularly, the G-Shock, you make a mistake, you wasted $200. Give it away as a gift to your cousin. You know what I mean? Like, and don't give him a birthday gift. You basically got off for free.
Yeah.
Same. Not so much the microbrand. I really think you should make the right decision with microbrand. Like, don't screw up there. Like, there's so many great options. But the luxury watch, definitely
don't F it up.
Don't screw it up. Like, it's a serious thing.
Yes.
It's a lot of money. Whether you buy a Nomos or a Longines or a cool Omega or a cool little Rolex, don't screw it up. Think about it long and hard. Drink over it. Sleep over it.
Yep.
Talk to people about it, and make that call. Did you make the right call?
Yes. Oh, 100%.
How do you feel about your Datejust now that you look back on it?
Every time I put it on, it takes me back to that moment of purchasing it. I remember texting you being like, get the watch. Yep. Like I'm pulling the trigger.
And then did I deliver it to you? When did I deliver it to you?
I came to your house.
Yeah, no, right. But did we hang out and like do cigars and stuff?
We were hanging out that whole night. It was like you, me, Rolly, and then you and I went out back and we were smoking a few cigars and the rest of the night gets kind of hazy.
Yeah, it does get kind of hazy, right? But like that's such a beautiful thing. And that's another note before we get into the last subject of today's conversation, which is, when you do buy the watch, not only buy it to commemorate, right? Which I do encourage, but sometimes, you can treat yourself and when the time is right and the right thing comes, you can buy it, but commemorate that purchase, right? Always leave, a couple $100, $200, right? In the I don't care about the money bank, like the little account where you're like, burn it, right? Yeah. To spend it on that night where you're celebrating it. Because otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, to go home and what, like wear your watch and watch a movie?
No, go out to grab dinner with your girlfriend, your wife, your mother.
100%.
Go by yourself. Do 100%. Something to just kind of, make that moment special.
100%.
And even though that night might not mean much when you think about it, going forward, but when you put that watch on, you'll think about it and, I went to so-and-so place and grabbed a few beers and kind of just watch the game, whatever the Yankees were on.
I drank it in.
And exactly.
That's such an important thing to do. And, and you go out and, again, my advice is, go out with a buddy, go out with a girl, or go out with whoever, and buy dinner, right? You buy dinner, right? Because like you're a big boy now or a big girl now, right? You're big and you were tough and you bought an expensive watch. Now pick up a check. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds silly, but it's like, and God knows sometimes we've done that, like to celebrate. It's like, no, like it makes the night complete. Take that, like when people buy a watch with you in Harris Watch Shop, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people want to negotiate on watches that really aren't negotiable. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a watch, like generally speaking, there's a little bit of wiggle room in watches, sure. But sometimes a watch isn't negotiable.
Gotcha.
It's just like, this is kind of the price.
Yeah.
And what I'll do sometimes is I'll say, I'll knock $200 off for you, right? If you promise, and I can't hold you to this promise. If you promise to take the $200 and go out and spend it when this watch lands. Yes. Within the first night. But within the first 2 nights of this watch landing, go out and spend it on your girlfriend or your mom or your best friend and even at a dive bar. Go spend $150 and just be like, wow, I did this. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. I made a really beautiful purchase. Agreed. And I'm proud of myself. That's what makes this special.
100%.
I was so glad when you got yours.
Oh, it was the best. Then the engraving on the back and everything.
Totally. Well, one more thing before we move on to the vintage.
And I have a question for you too, but continue.
Yeah. Well, it was just, when you said when you moved away from the GMT.
Yes.
And you decided on the Datejust. Was that because, tell me why that was? Because it's not just, it's more money. It's like, because you had GMT money. Like you had the physical money for the GMT.
Yes.
So what made you say, you know what? I'm going to forego the GMT, even though I have the money, and I'm going to buy a Datejust.
So I think it was a few things. Number one, when you look at the price comparison of a Datejust versus a GMT, we are talking, it's almost triple the price, right. Especially at the time because it was during COVID when I made the purchase. So it was like, do I really want to drop all this money on a GMT that currently is overpriced for what it should be?
Right.
Do I want to make that purchase? Do I want to spend that money? And I figured, okay, if I don't, what else can I spend that money on? What else can I do with it? Where else can I put that money? Whatever. The other thing was actually being able to put it on and try the Datejust out and kind of wear it and feel it. And really the other thing, going back to the micro brands is, and I'm not saying that a Baltic Aquascaf is the same as a GMT because it is two different classes of watches that we were talking about. That being said, it kind of scratched that itch.
Totally.
It really, when I then was like, oh, I'll just get the Baltic.
Right.
And then I put the Baltic on. I was like, I mean, I don't know. I still want a GMT eventually, but I don't really need it right now.
Right. But that's like an inner kind of contentment.
It was an inner thing. I came to peace with it, I guess. I don't know how you want to put it. And I got two beautiful watches out of it.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, listen, and this isn't just like Monday morning quarterbacking. Like for a long time, GMTs weren't desirable.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and now everyone's like, well, I know that's better, more expensive, so I need to go buy it. And I want that over a Datejust. Datejusts are easy. Datejusts are cheap. I don't want that. Right. Like when you go into a Rolex store, like you can get a Datejust far easier than you get a GMT. It's not even close. Right. But I tell people all the time, it's like, do your best to remove yourself from the social pressure.
Yeah.
Like, does this watch do it for you?
Of course.
Right. Like, do you think you'd feel any more successful if you had the GMT on your wrist?
No, it doesn't make a difference.
It marked the moment. And it was like this perfect watch.
Of course.
Well,
the question that I have for you is though, so I'm lucky in the sense that I have you as a friend. So I was able to try on a bunch of different. So my question is, if they don't have a Christian in their life, do you walk into ADs to try on different watches? Are they even going to allow that?
It's tough. Like when you're doing modern, then yes, go into ADs, be incredibly nice. Don't waste their time. Like meaning, if you want to try on a watch, pleasantries, try on your watch, thank them for their time and go, right? Just be really nice and leave, right? Be conscious of that. Then they'll show you almost anything, right? When it comes to vintage, it's kind of tough. Right? Because a lot of the stores in the vintage world that can show you inventory are really expensive.
Yes.
They're really overpriced. So I hate to give this advice, but go to a store with inventory and then don't buy there. I hate doing that. That's horrible advice. It's so mean as a retailer. But the reality is, go use them for the information they can give you. Try on the watch and then fuck off and buy it from an equally reputable dealer that's not charging you the price to pay for their
rent and everything else.
Real estate. That's my advice.
That's fair.
Okay.
Right.
Now, the second part of the conversation I wanted to get into today, before we talk about, what the hell you're doing here and how the hell you ended up on the channel, is a little bit of vintage.
Yes.
Right. There are a few Cartiers in the shop right now, all in like this General Santos family, Panther. Santos, Santos Demoiselle. There are a couple, right? Santos Dumont. And I wanted to talk about them for a little bit. So my first question is, when you think of Cartier, you think of the tank.
Yes.
Where does the Santos fall in your relationship with Cartier watches?
So the Santos to me is like the sportier tank. I don't know if it's actually defined as that.
It's not a tank, but is it a sport Cartier? Like what? Flesh it out.
To me, it's a sportier tank in the sense that it's more square. It's a metal bracelet typically, and it just looks sportier. I wouldn't play a sport with it, but it looks sportier.
You're right. And what's kind of funny is I corrected you a little bit, but I think I'm kind of wrong too, because I think I'm getting too in the watch technicality of it, where the reality is like, the Santos came out, I think it came out originally in like 1904 because Cartier made the watch for a one-off guy, this pilot, Albert Santos Dumont, and then I don't think it made it to market until 1911.
Gotcha.
The point is, the same guy, the same company that designed the Santos took that design language and made the tank like right after.
Gotcha.
So the tank and the Santos.
So they are kind of they're family.
No. They're not just cousins. They're kissing cousins, right? Like they're kissing cousins. Like they're really, really close. They're obviously a little bit different.
Okay.
Santos is a little bit softer in the original variations, but like they're really similar.
Okay.
Right. Fast forward to the 80s.
Yes.
And we've got Wall Street.
Yep.
And the Santos just became
massive,
aggressive, kind of elegant, but sporty design.
Yep.
Right? Would Gordon Gekko have looked as cool in a Day-Date?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. He was so aggressive. He was cutthroat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Day-Date's great. I love the Day-Date. God knows. Tony Soprano's cutthroat. Fine. But Gordon Gekko,
it just makes sense.
He didn't want a Day-Date. It was too ordinary.
Yes. This is a little bit more elegant almost.
It was like, I already had the Day-Date.
Yeah.
I moved on from that. I'm actually way richer than you. I'm on to the Cartier Santos now.
So you're saying that it's douchier than the Day-Date?
Totally.
Gotcha.
100%. The more niche it gets, the douchier it gets.
You're actually right.
Because it's like the Piaget Polo.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that wasn't your first gold watch. You know,
Yeah.
to get a Piaget Polo in the 70s, it's like, you've been through everything else, which is a baller move.
Of course.
Right? Like, that's why I say, like, always, like, jump straight to white gold Day-Dates because it looks like you've got 15 other watches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so that the Panthera is cool. I mean, I think that the cultural, association you might have, obviously, in Wall Street, Gordon Gekko wore the Santos and then Bud Fox wore the Panthera.
Mm-hmm.
People say, and maybe I'll get your opinion on this. I say that the set designer, the costume designer, did that on purpose because the Santos was more aggressive and the Panthera softer and more feminine.
Yes.
And Bud Fox ultimately was a rat.
Yes.
Right? Like, he was
the softer Gordon Gekko. You know what I mean? He didn't really have it.
He didn't have the screws. He didn't have the hard lines.
Didn't have the balls to do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and that's how I look at the like, I mean, and I want to hear your thoughts on what you think of the Panthera. But to me, like, I'm not a big fan of like, some people get like the tank and then you get like the lady tank for like your wife or something. Yes. I think it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I'd prefer to get a Santos and then get my wife like the Panthera. Oh, I think that's a sick combo.
My friend. that is really hot, actually.
You're like, shit, now I got to get rid of the 5 lady tanks that I have for my future wife.
Oh, those are for my future daughters.
Oh.
Your niece?
Well, it's going to go to your future wife first and then it'll go to my nieces.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, right? Like, I think if I'm ever lucky enough to get married and have daughters, I would imagine that my wife will raid my watch box at some point.
Your child's going to come out of the womb with a tank on.
Right? You know,
at this point
recently, Sarah D. She asked me recently, family friend of mine and Sam's that I love, more than life itself, and said to me the other day when we were at a bar at the Dive, and she goes, "What if your kids don't like watches?" And I was like, I'll love them anyway, but I don't know. And I was a little bit drunk, so I tend to be didactic when I'm drunk, and I was like, it just seems to me that if my children don't like watches, like, they're fundamentally not interested in their father. And I think that that's a weird thing.
I mean, I get it, but it's also like growing up with like a dad that owns a pizzeria, or a corner store. It's like, do you like, I don't know
what you mean.
Like, there's obviously more of an allure to watches, but I feel like it's somewhat similar.
I guess my only objection to that, and I agree with you, on a fundamental level, I understand what you mean, but the kind of watch guy that I am, we're going to get into this in our next episode about LeBron James. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to hear it. Is like this idea between collector and aficionado.
Yes.
Like this idea that aficionado is a very pompous sounding word, no doubt, but in a very real way, it means something. It means that you are more interested, you have more knowledge, you're more passionate about a subject. Your ownership in that medium is actually irrelevant.
Yeah.
You don't need to have $1 million in watches or cigars to be considered an aficionado.
Yeah.
You need to like love it and like be knowledgeable about it.
Of course.
Right. So I think that anyone that owns a pizzeria or a corner store that is really like, it means a lot to their like identity, their kids will love it too. If you treat it as a business, it's a little bit different.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, think of Totono's. Think about DeFara, right? DeFara was run by a father-daughter pair.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, anyone that ran a business that like it's in their blood. Whether the kids want to pursue that business or not is different.
Fair enough.
But they're always going to have a soft spot in their heart for a little bit of red sauce.
There's one fundamental issue with this whole thing.
What is it?
You need a wife and kids.
Why would you remind me of that? That is not. Tell everyone how long you've been trying to wait to bring a girl to a pumpkin patch for.
7 years.
It's been a long time. All of those watches that we just mentioned, the Demoiselle, the little one, the Panthera, the man one that was worn by Pierce Brosnan in stainless steel, and then Bud Fox in yellow gold, the rose gold version, the Santos Dumont that we've got in the shop right now, beautiful. Ultra thin, Piaget movement, chocolate dial, uber rare watch. Good luck finding another one. They're all available in the Theo and Harris watch shop. Go take a look at all of those watches, and now now that we've got that out of the way, after you've already, now I assume you're opening up a tab and checking out the Harris Watch Shop, we could talk for a second about just a couple minutes about, you getting on the channel. So Sam and I have been best friends for a long, long time. We grew up together. We grew up 4 or 5 blocks away from each other.
Sounds about right.
I carried you home from those blocks one time.
About 3 of them.
About 3 of the 5 blocks before the police came.
Long story.
Long story. But the point is, Sam and I have had a long friendship.
Yep.
Right. That has taken us on different career paths.
Of course.
But I think it's like amazing that he has developed this bug for watches. Right. I mean,
yeah.
And I think that in part due to Theo and Harris, right?
Oh, a huge part was due to Theo and Harris.
Right. And then when we brought you on like the Zero a couple of months ago, or even before that, like what was your first participation in Theo and Harris?
The video about my Timex. What was that, 5 years ago? We did. That was no, the night before was a bad night. No, we did a video talking about my watch collection, a few heirlooms that I have, and one that I will inherit from my dad. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first time I was featured.
Yep.
Then I played young Tito.
And you played young Tito in the Vacheron Constantin film that Michael made, which I think it's a film that I reference, I don't know, do you think 12 times a week?
Probably.
To I think that film was the logical evolution of the old Patek ad. Mm-hmm. Never truly own a Patek Philippe. You just watch after it for the next generation.
That's fair.
And I would say that Michael and I played a role in the beginning, of course, and but Michael really brought that film to life, and it was an amazing film, and it was just it's like even talking about it, I always get a little sappy about it because it was so incredible.
Well, that's a beautiful
film. Because Poppy was the subject, and then you played young Poppy, and the reason we cast you as young Poppy is because if beaks could kill, yours would. That big fucking schnoz of yours just resembles my grandfather's so much.
You're just too kind. I don't know. It's so nice.
No, you can make fun of me. Say something.
I'm good right now. I'll save it. Save it for the next episode.
No. Anyway, so that was it. That was your second interaction, and then we featured you on a couple episodes of The Zero.
Yep.
If you haven't already joined our community at The Zero, we release podcasts every week with different watch enthusiasts, collectors, experts. Even Michael comes on once a month. We have an amazing time. We do lives. Come and join The Zero, and if you do, even on a 7-day free trial, shoot me a DM and we'll talk watches.
Speaking of, I bought a suit for this. What's company policy with getting reimbursed?
Yeah, why are you wearing a suit today?
I just figured this is a pretty big channel in the watch community, and I figured to show up dressed like you would just be a shame, and I had to just one up you a little bit.
You look great. You look great. You look like you're on an interview, and yet you already got the job.
Yeah.
But man. Anyway, yeah, this is great. I love you dearly.
Love you too.
And I love Michael dearly behind the camera, and we're all going to be doing videos. Not together because the office isn't big enough, but we'll be doing videos on an alternating basis.
Yeah.
Just keeping new personalities in the channel and looking to grow this and deliver you guys, more diversified content. And I'm sorry that I have to be a constant in this. I'm sure that's not what you want. But I guess, it would be weird if I got off the channel,
Be a little strange.
If I'm going to follow the Hodinkee model, I'd get off and then have to come back on in a couple of years. That's fucking embarrassing. You know what? That's only funny because he has way more money than me. Because you can only punch up. You can't punch down. He can't make fun of me. I can only make fun of him. Sorry, Ben. You're an idol of mine. That's it. If you guys like this episode, like it. If you love Sam, please give him some positive reinforcement because this is the guy's first time in a fucking YouTube long conversation. That's it, my man.
Pleasure.
I love you so much. Thank you so much.
Love you too, bud.
And straps, as many of you should know, bring a whole world of potential to mix up your watch collection. They breathe new life into watches. They help you pull out different colors. They give them new personality. Straps can be very addictive. I know people with 2 watches and 10 straps because it adds so many facets to a collection in a fairly easy and fun way. So that's why they become such a part of the Theo and Harris culture and identity. I think we sell more exotic straps than almost anybody because I just love them so much and I love sharing them with you.